Mambo. Yes. Kopoa. Yes. Project iko ICT.
Nani akoncha?
Ulizia Sifuni.
Mwanaka huko.
Bwana mimi unajua tu wanalala hapa. Mimi wanalala hapa.
Waambia class gani?
Dr. Kibabii here.
Akanasa.
Doc ni course code ni?
Yeah.
Course code ya unit ni?
CUP 2110.
CUP?
2110.
Oh, sawa. So nakutumia watumia lao pia mimi ndashare kwa group niko nazo.
Okay.
Watu education wote, EDS na EDA.
EDS, EDA, BEE, EDE.
Oh, sawa.
All secondary education plus BEE and EDE.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sawa, ndio hitu nimejenerate natuma tu sawa. Nisema ni CUP.
Okay. 2110.
2110.
You make it recurrent.
No, hii tu paka every time class iko na generate kwa sababu ni link ya YouTube.
Okay, so you'll be generating every Thursday at 8.
Yes, maybe unani remind jioni ndio nisisahau silale sana.
Wednesday, sawa. Okay. Poa.
No, tell them to enroll. Yes. That's course code then you add self 2025. Then they know, just tell them to enroll. If they have issues they come I help them. They know what to do.
So MacD. MacD,
Yes.
I use what you've given me, the YouTube one.
Share the link I have sent to you.
Uh-huh.
There's a link that I have sent to you on WhatsApp. Just forward them for the students to join.
Okay, then I maintain this one.
Yeah, you maintain this one now. Use this one to teach. Then you use the other one to just monitor and maybe to have the feedback from students. They usually chat.
Okay.
Yeah, just forward to them. Then you can click on that just to see what is going on.
Okay. Okay, so the other one should be able to accommodate many.
Yes, all of them they should join.
Tuko sawa huko?
Yeah, they
MacD.
should. Yeah, I'm okay. Can you join? Can you join the other one using the font one? Wamefika wangapi? Let me also join the other side one.
Yeah, I've joined.
Okay.
Na participants wa huko wako wapi? Naona tu chats. Wana register tu.
Acha niangalie ni wangapi. Let me check. Hello. Yes.
Umeangalia?
Let me check again. Tell them to come to the office. Well, start to start. Let me check. Let me check. Sawa, acha niangalie.
Good morning. MacD. MacD. McDonald. Bonnie.
Just Just hold on. Just hold on. Let me check something. Give me
Okay.
just like a minute.
Okay. Then let me know when it's okay to begin.
Sawa. No, they are 400. I think you can just start.
400?
Yes.
Where? Out of 2,300, actually, what charge?
But I think within 5 or 10 minutes, it would be a good number.
Okay, sawa. Let me just begin off.
So.
Okay, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Makdi, huku hakuna responses.
Check on the chat. They are responding.
On the chat, sindio?
Yes, the link that I shared on your WhatsApp.
Okay, so mimi niendelee tu.
Yes.
Hiyo echo inatoka wapi? Kuna yeah, nasikia echo chat. Oh, okay. But there's some echo. I have an echo.
Let me just check.
Okay, we begin our class. Sorry for the delay. We were organizing so that we can accommodate everyone. Now, allow me make this announcement so that I don't forget it. Your COP MacD, please pick my call.
Just okay.
Hello. I was making an announcement with regard to COP 2990, an announcement with regard to COP 2990. You are to have the class at 11 to 2 by Dr. Wabwaba. She will not be in, but she told me to communicate the following. COP 2990 is a course you will not see on your portal. You will not see it on your portal, so don't ask why you are not registering for it. The reason why is this is a course that will be assessed and marked after you have gone for your school experience at the end of year 2. So it is not on the portal, don't ask for it, but you must do it. It is basically a theory course now. It will be practical during your school experience. So you must attend all the practical sessions for this semester. You'll not have a written exam for that course, CUP 2990. She has requested that you form groups of at least 14 members, and these should be groups from the same subject combination. Why 14? We shall require you at some point to go for a field school visit. We shall require you to visit a school around Kibabii or a school of your choice for one day, as long as you will afford the cost to go to the school. so that you visit it for one day and study what normally takes place in a school from as early as 8 a.m. up to 5 p.m. Then you come back and write a report. So that is one of her requests. Form your groups so that next week when she comes, the group should be ready. This visitation will take place in January, but you will need to do a pre-visit to the school to secure your dates for January. In this group, make sure you have a chairperson, a secretary, and a treasurer. The chairperson and the secretary should be people who have very good communication skills because they will be in charge of the group. And secondly, they're the ones who will go and pre-visit a school to secure permission. So make sure you are very careful. The secretary will be doing a lot of writing for the group, writing the reports, writing minutes when you meet, deliberations, and so on. We need a treasurer because we shall have to contribute money to go and visit this school, and this money will include our transport and our lunch. The reason why I'm saying 14 is it will be easier for you to hire a matatu that has 14 as the carrying passenger capacity. So do that between 11 and 2. Form the groups, have the names of the group members, have a group name. Please choose a name that is academic. Like if you say Achievers Group, that's an academic name. Don't have funny names for your groups. Submit those lists to the office, ABB 213. On that list, please agree on the school you are likely to visit. And this don't just propose one, propose 2. Because you'll be allowed to go for the pre-visit in this school based on first come. So if we receive a group already proposing Cardinal girls or Kibabii boys, the second group coming will not be given that. You'll be told to suggest another school. So at least have 2 schools to be on the safe side. And you can go as far as your members of the group can agree, they will facilitate themselves. So don't just restrict yourself within Bungoma. You can go towards Kitale. You can go towards Kakamega. You can go towards Vihiga. You can go towards Eldoret. We have had students visiting, as long as all group members will be in a position to support that. If you are in a group and you are uncomfortable because the cost is too high, then maybe you can request to change to another group. So we shall maintain those groups until we go for the visit and until we submit the field school report. It is one of the portfolio items. I think she will give you details of portfolio assignments when she meets you physically in class. So then allow me to share my screen so that we begin today's class. Mark D. I don't know if my screen is visible or it is too small. I increase the font size.
Yeah, you are sharing your screen.
Yeah, just hold on. I don't know how visible it is now. Is it visible enough?
Try to increase to zoom in a bit, to zoom out.
So I go back. Huh?
Just increase click the plus at the bottom right.
Oh. Bado?
Bado unaona kuna plus hiyo ya kuzoom out. Hapo chini bottom, at the bottom right. Chini tu hapo kabisa.
Yeah, I'm there.
Try to add, to increase.
Bado?
Bado.
Then let me do it fast. Huko kwingine. Bado?
And now it's better.
Okay. Okay. Are they seeing something?
Yes.
Okay. So today's class, we want to look at the first topic. And if time will allow, we move to the second topic a bit because we didn't do much during last time. So we shall see where we shall go. Topic 1 is teaching, learning, training. We would like you to understand what your profession entails. When you talk about teaching, what do we mean? When we talk about learning, what do we mean? When we talk about training, what do we mean? And then also instruction. So we have those 4 terms you need to understand very well. Now we look at teaching in 3 ways, just as you can see on the screen. The first way is when we refer to teaching as a process. And we know very well that when we talk about a process, we have steps. So right from today or this semester, you are going to go through some process of being guided on how you're supposed to teach. So even when you go to teach yourself, you'll be guiding your learners. You'll be guiding them so that they discover that we have knowledge that can be used to better our lives. And in guiding learners to gain this knowledge, you also have to guide them to acquire skills and attitudes and values that will be important for their individual and national growth. So it is not just something starting today and ending today. In the course of our interaction, you are going to acquire a lot of knowledge, you are going to acquire a lot of skills and competencies, you are going to change your attitudes, like we discussed in our last class, you're going to acquire values, you're going to acquire 21st century skills so that you use them not just for yourself, but also for other people around you. So that's how we can refer to teaching as a process. Then we can also say teaching is an art. Why is it an art? There's a way in which you have to um, uh, package your content so that you are delivering it in a style. We can never teach the same way, much as we have the same content. You can never introduce your lesson the same way. You can never talk the same way. You can never give assignments the same way. There are so many other things each teacher um, desires to do so that the learners now understand what he or she will be teaching. So we need a style, just like art. Being artistic means do something differently from somebody else. So, as a teacher, start thinking about how you will be delivering your content, how you will be dressing like a teacher, that is still style. Remember, last time we said your appearance will just tell the students who you are. So, how do you now package your information and yourself so that your style of teaching now appeals to your learners? So, you have to be very systematic, you have to be very smart, you have to be very innovative, you have to be very creative for you to have a good style of teaching. Then we can also look at teaching as a science. A science because just like the way we perform a procedure in the laboratory, then we need procedures also in teaching. When we look at topic 5, or when we get to topic 5, we shall discover that you don't just walk to a classroom. You must start preparing. There are things you need, just like in a classroom, you need, I mean, a practical lesson, you need equipment, you need facilities, you need all those. Even in teaching, you need all that. So then, as we are doing that, there's a systematic way in which we have to communicate. Remember, I told you during our last class, communication is very, very key. We talked about one of the qualities of a teacher as being an effective communicator. So plan your content well, then how do you take it to class? So when we are teaching, you as a teacher and even as the learners, we expect you to be in a dialogue. A teacher is teaching, the learners are responding, just like we did basically during our last lesson. Then teaching as characteristics of teaching. We have said teaching can be seen as a science, as an art, and as a process. So, what are the characteristics of teaching then? We teach because we want to communicate knowledge and inclusive of the skills, the attitude, the values to the learners. We are teaching because we want to cause or influence some learning to take place. As you teach, we expect you to encourage and stimulate your learners. As you teach, you're also training the child to um, be in a position to control their emotions. And even you, as a teacher, should be able to control your emotions. We know what happened at St. George's Girls the other day. A teacher was unable to control his emotions. And what happened? The learners also could not control theirs, and it ended up in rampage at night. So we teach the learners that when you are upset, this is not the way to react so fast. And yourself also, you have to train yourself. So we can do teaching formally or informally. Formal is when we are in the classroom, like now. Informal, I've just told you you'll go for a field school visit. That's when we shall do our informal teaching, our informal learning. So we need to acquire skills, and just like any other profession, teaching has its procedures, it has its skills, it has its expectations, so that we are abiding by what a teacher is supposed to do or what a teacher is supposed to have. So, in other words, we are teaching because we are guiding learners to communicate, to learn, to control themselves, to be encouraged, and to acquire skills that will make them um, responsible people in life. Now, qualities or characteristics of an effective teacher. We discussed this in details during our last class. And I also sent you a photograph uh, of a teacher. I know the picture didn't look so good, but the information there is what is key to our learning. Among the qualities of a good teacher, we discussed, I told you we have the most important, very key, you must have. The others we can just adjust along the way. But as a teacher, you must know your content. That one is a must, and in capital letters. You must be an effective communicator. It is a must. We have had a few instances when our students go for practicum. Remember, as a teacher, you need to start gaining confidence. Those who have not yet had confidence to stand before a class, a crowd, it's something very, very important. So we have had a few instances where a student goes to class and cannot even face the learners, cannot even communicate. It becomes very sad. So those who still have issues with confidence, please, I've told you how to start gaining that. Always try and talk even to your students in the class, request to announce something, go to the front of the class and talk. It will help you to start being confident. So confidence, being an effective communicator, having your subject matter, and then preparing and using professional tools. Very, very key. You must prepare and use professional tools. We shall look at the tools in our topic 5. Tools like curriculum designs, tools like a lesson plan, tools like assessment, marking guide, and so on. So you must prepare every day. And as you prepare, you use. You don't just prepare and leave them there. So those 4 are very, very important. Communication, confidence, content, and then tools. We can say the 3 C's under T. Yeah, communication, content, confidence, tools. Then the others you add on, though they are also important, like knowing learners by their names so that you call them using their names. Being reflective as a teacher. Do you just teach or you reflect on what you are teaching? Being creative and innovative. Remember, we have said teaching is an art. So we teach using different styles. And how do you get these styles? By being innovative. Yeah. What I'm doing is that I'm trying to link, in a few minutes, I'll tell you about 21st century skills, linking the skills to the characteristics of a teacher. When you are innovative and creative, then you become reflective on your teaching, and it can enable you teach in a good style. Then you should also motivate your learners. Talk to them about the subject they are taking. Talk to them about the importance of learning. Talk to them about what to expect in the future that is positive, that is motivating. Weak learners, motivate them. Because if you just leave them to be weak all through, then we are not helping them. So motivate the weak learners in the class. Motivate learners who have improved. Motivate learners when they answer questions in class. Tell them that's very good. Clap for them, and so on. If you just keep quiet and you don't recognize their efforts, they don't feel good. Then you're not all knowing. You don't know everything. Learners also have ideas. Be using good, and I'm saying good ideas from the learners. Learn to use the good ideas learners have also to enrich your lesson. Some learners have very good discussions that can help you a great deal. Don't ignore them. Then, of course, we are teaching in a class that has different learners. Take note of individual learning differences and attend to each learner accordingly. And then, of course, be fair and just in solving classroom issues. So those are the other characteristics of an effective teacher I could add related to what we discussed last week. We talked about a teacher being approachable, a teacher being morally upright. Please, they're also very important. A teacher being disciplined, a teacher who is punctual, a teacher who is a team player, I think plus so many other characteristics we mentioned. And a teacher being presentable, well-dressed. Don't just go to class and you dress as if you're going to the market. So we talked about all those last week. I think we explained this, but let me just go through again. Being an effective communicator, use language that is acceptable. Please, we don't use Sheng for teaching in the classroom. And again, it is only Kiswahili where you teach in Kiswahili. All the other subjects, apart from maybe French or German, we use English. So we have to use English in our communication apart from Kiswahili. I've seen students going to class and the student is teaching English and explanations are in Kiswahili. It cannot work like that. Be careful, and especially when you are communicating anything by writing on the chalkboard. Let it have the correct spellings. Please, you are now a second year, you are at the university. It will be very shameful for you to go to class and you are using broken English. So polish your language as early as this. We also communicate using the chalkboard. So make sure, and we shall teach you on how to use the chalkboard. And then be friendly. But again, take care. Don't be too friendly to the learners. They can mistake you. Understanding your content means have the right attitude, be passionate about your subject, even dream your subject and what you're going to teach, and do as much research as possible about your research. Being reflective, after teaching, don't just go away, evaluate yourself. Did I teach well? If I went wrong, where did I go wrong? How do I correct that? guide learners effectively and accordingly. Provide even counseling, because we are also counselors. We become father and mother figures to those learners. So guide them accordingly. And then don't appear as if, one, we need to counsel you first before you go and counsel your learners. So always ensure that as a teacher, you are doing your very best to present yourself in the best way possible so that learners also respect you. Preparation for going to class, I've talked about curriculum designs, lesson plans, lesson notes, ensuring that the classroom has the right atmosphere. We shall take you through that in semester 2. How do you create a conducive classroom? Then, of course, keep records because you can defer to them. Knowing students' names. If you call a student by a name, that student feels appreciated. Reinforce them, their efforts. I've already mentioned that. So as a teacher also, we expect you to possess, apart from the characteristics, to understand and apply the 21st century skills. Very, very important. A teacher who does not understand 21st century skills is a teacher who may not do so much, and especially in this competence-based education dispensation. So you have to understand these skills also because they will be very key for your teaching and learning. So the first one we are looking at for a teacher is innovation and learning skills. Innovation and learning, yeah. For you to be a good teacher who is innovative, then you need to know that communication is key. We have already emphasized, in fact, overemphasized that one. Then collaboration. You must learn to collaborate. I've just told you at the beginning of the class, form groups of 14, and we are going to work in those groups. Have a group name, decide. That is collaboration. So even when you go to the school, please collaborate with other teachers. You're not a lone ranger. You'll not manage being alone in a school. You must work with the others. Be creative. Be innovative. Think critically and solve problems in the class accordingly. Be fair in even solving the problems. When you're planning to teach a topic for tomorrow, think about it. Think about it. There could be other things you could bring into the classroom or into the content that maybe are not in the textbook or course book. So it's important for you to be effective when teaching, be innovative, communicate, collaborate, be creative, think critically. Then secondly, as a teacher, you also need life and career skills. Life and career skills. Some life skills, nobody will teach you. You love to learn them on your own. Career skills related to your teaching. You have to know these are skills needed for a teacher. So like, for example, you need to be flexible and somebody who can adapt to situations as they appear. So you need the skill of flexibility and adaptability. That's a life skill. When things change, how do you behave? You need to be a teacher who can take an initiative in doing things. Direct yourself, self-direction. Be the first one to start doing something. You know, sometimes when you are applying for jobs, people are fond of writing, I can work with minimal supervision. So minimal supervision is somehow negative. It means to some extent you have to be supervised. Can you be that teacher who takes the first step in doing something? Initiative, so that it gives you self-direction. As a teacher, you need social skills. You're handling learners, you're handling parents, you're handling other teachers, you're handling issues in the community. Remember, we shall go, or we are required to do something called community service project when we go for our school experience. So you need social skills, because if you don't know how to talk to those people around the school community, how will you even engage in a project with them? Like if you're going, or you choose that your project will be to clean the market around the school, there are people at the market who belong to the community. If you don't talk to them, even if their market is dirty, will they even allow you to come and clean? And if you do, are they likely to join you so that they clean their market and they see the importance of a market being clean? So you need to be social to your learners, to your fellow teachers, to your community, to the head teacher, but social with the boundaries. Don't be social and too social and excessively social, and then you start complaining. You said we should be social. Yeah. Another thing about life and career, be productive, be accountable. Let us see results in what you're doing. And if you happen to be in a leadership position, please ensure that you're using that leadership well and that you are responsible. We have class reps in this class. Are you responsible for your classes? Are you providing guided leadership? For example, we didn't start the class on time because we had a few other issues to sort out to accommodate everyone. And I could see so many of the class reps getting to my inbox to tell me, one, capacity is full. It is being responsible. My students cannot join. Yeah. Then I was also responsible to get to Odell and tell them, my students are complaining. What is the problem? So then we had to wait. Yeah. And I remember I told you, let us be patient. We are sorting out the issue. Yeah. So that is how you should have life and career skills, so that whenever you have a problem, you're solving it in the best calm way possible. Provide good leadership and be responsible. Number 3, which is very, very critical. We are in an ICT age. And therefore, as a teacher, you must be well versed in information systems, in media, and technology skills. You must have them, you need them. Even in the JS, teaching and learning, we have had parents complain when they are told, record a video of your learner doing, your child doing this, and go and upload it on this website, and so on and so forth. So if you don't know as a teacher, and a parent has come to ask you, how will you guide that parent? It is very important. Be well versed with forms of media and technology and how to use them. When you tell learners go and access this information, where are they accessing the information from? Provide guidance. So things, sorry, like ICTs, the computers, the videos, the YouTube, multimedia, and so on. We have to know how to engage with them. Then also remember we have information literacy. Be this teacher who wants to find out what is happening, which other new information is on the globe, and how is it important for my learners. Yeah. So know how to communicate, and not just to communicate information, but to use ICTs. In other words, to be technology compliant. So that's so much about teaching, what teaching is, what what teaching is, what are the characteristics of a good teacher, and what 21st century skills does a teacher need in order to fit in the current teaching and learning environment. So then let's look at learning as our second term. And we are saying that learning is a process by which I would replace the word individual by learner, by which a learner acquires the knowledge, the skills, the competencies we talked about. And it is not just about acquiring. It is not just about getting to know something new. Can you get it and retain? Yeah. So we are teaching now. You're acquiring some knowledge. Are you able to retain it after some time? And are you able to apply? Very important. Acquire, retain, and then apply or use. So if I teach you how to prepare a lesson plan today, you'll acquire knowledge on how to prepare a lesson plan. Then you have to keep on reminding yourself about the steps of preparing a lesson plan. When you go for your school experience, you will have to apply that. I have to see you performing the behavior of preparing a lesson plan. So then I will say you'll have learned how to prepare a lesson plan. So acquire knowledge, and you'll acquire this knowledge maybe through teaching. Then you keep it or you retain it, you understand it, and then at a later stage, you apply it. And you do this application consistently. You don't prepare a lesson plan today, and then after 1 week, you tell me you don't know how to prepare a lesson plan or you have forgotten. There you will not have learned. When you learn, we don't expect you to forget. We expect you to retain. So that's why we are saying learning also, just like teaching, is a process. You acquire knowledge, you retain it, you understand it, and then you apply it later on, and you keep on applying it. So learning may not be directly observed, but can be sometimes inferred from what we are doing, especially to do with behavior. So if I say you have to learn how to be morally upright, I'll have to observe your behavior at some point and say, this one is now morally upright because he has done the correct thing. I give you a situation, then you do something. But most at times, we have to go through the learning process or the teaching and learning process to acquire this knowledge. So once you've acquired this knowledge, we expect it to remain relatively permanent, and therefore we shall have said you've learned a behavior, and therefore you can perform that behavior any other time. So when you are learning, we are learning in 3 domains or in 3 ways. Yeah, there are 3 ways in which learning takes place. Which are these 3 ways? They are here. We call them domains of learning. The first one is cognitive domain. Cognitive has to do with development of the brain. Please let us stop talking about some other things on the chat and respond to them. Cognitive has to do with the brain. Cognitive has to do with the mind. Cognitive has to do with knowledge. How have you mastered your subject matter? If I ask you anything, can you answer me? So we are using the mind, the brain, to think. So anything to do with knowledge acquisition, knowledge, new information, new whatever it is, as long as it is knowledge you're acquiring, something new, some new information, We attribute that to the cognitive domain. Then we have the other domain that is called psychomotor. Let me move to psychomotor before I explain affective. Psychomotor domain, this one is now concerned with use of skills, acquisition and use of skills, being able to manipulate things. It's in other words, hands-on. Yeah. We want to see you perform physical activities using your hands, using whatever it is. Like when you are teaching, let's say English, and your topic is on songs and dances, and you ask learners to sing and dance. You see, that dancing is psychomotor because you're dancing in styles. Can you now be able to coordinate your skills or your brain and your muscles? Because even as you dance, you must have learned a certain dancing style, and that learning is cognitive. So psychomotor, now we have to see you physically doing something, involved in activities. That is the second domain. Then the third domain is affective. Affective, or what you call attitudinal. That one now is related to emotions. Remember, we talked about a teacher being able to control his emotions and also the emotions of the learners. So we are not just teaching knowledge, cognitive development. We are not just teaching competencies, that is psychomotor development. We also are very careful to ensure affective domain is being attended to. That's why when some of you are just writing funny things and making noise in the class, we tell you, no, calm down. We are going to respond to that in a while. So affective has to do with feelings, it has to do with emotions, it has to do with the way we react to issues, it has to do with our interests, it has to do with our passion, yeah, it has to do with our values. Are you appreciating others? Are you appreciating the teacher? Are you appreciating what goes on around you? How do you react to situations around you? In what way? When somebody upsets you, do you also get upset? Or you try to keep your cool so that you see how the situation now fizzles out? So we are learning in three domains. And I'm saying the first one is cognitive. This one has to do with the brain or the mind, and that's where we acquire knowledge. We learn through psychomotor. In other words, we learn by doing, and doing is physical activities. That is what we call psychomotor. And these physical activities are the ones we are basing on the competencies. It gives us the competencies. You must do this before you move to the next stage. And then, of course, we have the affective ones. We don't just learn and do things without emotions. If you don't like something, you will not learn it, you will not do it. If you like something, you will be very keen to learn, that is cognitive. You'll be very keen to do it. We are training to be teachers. And some of us, like we said last time, maybe could have been our last option. Some of us, we said, teaching is just in my blood. I cannot go to any other profession. So you see, that is now affective. Your interest and your attitude about teaching is so positive. So even when somebody is now teaching you what to do, your cognitive domain is very active. You are very keen to acquire knowledge on how to do something. Then when you go to the psychomotor one, now when you go for the practical, for the physical activity, you do whatever it is so well with a lot of passion until we now know this one cognitively is okay, emotions, affection is okay, psychomotor is performing to the best of expectations. So those are the three domains of learning. Cognitive, the mind. Psychomotor, the competencies or the skills. Affective, attitudes. That's why we talk about teaching as acquisition of knowledge, that is now cognitive. Skills, that is psychomotor or competencies. Attitude, values, that is now affective. So it's just the three, the definition now broken down into three. So we are going to look at later on how to prepare to write learning outcomes that will be cognitive, or learning outcomes that will be psychomotor in nature, or learning actives that will be affective. In order for learning to take place, there are factors you need to consider as a teacher. Factors that are likely to affect learning. The very first one, what is the nature of the learner? Remember we talked about individual learning differences. What is their prior knowledge level? What do they know before you even start teaching? I want to believe you cannot go to a grade 7 class and that is when you want to start introducing nouns. No, in English. They already know about nouns. But they start learning about nouns even before they go to school, preschool, they do. So you'll now not be introducing nouns at that level because they already know. You'll be doing something else about nouns, maybe categorization, maybe application, maybe complicated types of nouns, and so on. So prior knowledge of the learner, very important. Don't always assume the learner doesn't know. Sometimes the learner already knows something. It's not an empty slate in the classroom. It has something on already. What is the learner's age? What are their learner's interests? What do they like? What don't they like? And so on. Very important. Understand your learner before you go and teach. And by the way, understand each individual learner as a teacher. That is why you must know all your learners in the class. Understand them, all of them in the class. Then, what content are you going to teach? What are you going to teach today? If your lesson today is on cultural practices in the community, then you must find out, is my class made up of students from one cultural background or they belong to different cultural backgrounds? Because if you're going to teach learners in Bungoma and you over-concentrate on Bukusu culture, and maybe Bungoma town is cosmopolitan, not all of them understand the Bukusu culture. Some of them come from different cultures. So it's very important. Understand your content. Which examples are you going to use even as you teach? Will they be from that area or other areas and so on? Will they appeal to the learners? Because sometimes we use examples that are annoying and which is not good. You can annoy a learner until he walks out, especially in this kind of teaching period. Very, very important. So understand your content. Know very well which method or which approach you are going to use for your teaching or for the learning process. Know your approach very well. Understand it. We are going to look at those approaches and strategies we can effectively use to conduct our teaching and learning. Then know your environment, the environment around which learning is taking place. know the environment very well. If it is a classroom, is it a classroom that is in a quiet place? Is it a school around the road? Is it very noisy? And if it happens to be so, what do you do as a teacher? Take action, move to a quiet environment or something like that. Then what are the attitudes of the learners? Remember, I've said whichever subject you are teaching, always, please, always start by telling learners something good about your subject. Something good, maybe about a profession or an incident or something that someone did and related to what you are teaching, so that learners now become very positive and very keen, yeah, to listen to you. Then the learner's state of mind also, very important. We have learners who come to class and they're just absent-minded. Like I can see some of you on the chat, you look like you're absent-minded. I was talking about your own things. Okay. Then learners' technical knowledge also, especially now. Remember I told you about ICT skills of a 21st century teacher. When you know them very well, your learners will also know them. You will not have so many problems teaching and learning. So then those are some of the factors that can affect your learning. The nature of the learners or the characteristics of the learners, the content you're going to teach will determine how you're going to teach it and what you're going to use, the method or the strategy, what learners would like to pursue. And we don't just teach knowledge, we are also teaching and relating the content we are teaching to the future of the learners, to their passion, to their interest, to their talents, and everything else. So it's very important that we do that. So then that's about learning. Remember 3 things about teaching you need to keep in your mind. Teaching can be a process, teaching can be an art, teaching can be science. 3 things you need to know about learning. Learning happens in domains, and there are 3 basic domains: cognitive domain, psychomotor domain, and affective domain. Then we move to training. And say training is an activity that focuses on shaping behavior or acquiring skills that you need to perform, practical skills, competencies. You can only move to the next one after you know how to apply the first one. So training has to do with now performance of skills you have acquired. So we are training you now to be teachers. And when you go teach, we shall expect you to teach not so differently from the way we are now training you. So before you go for even your school experience, we expect you to have acquired certain skills. When you talk about 21st century skills, I want to know. The reason why I'm putting you in groups for your 2990 assignment, are you a team player? Can you collaborate with others? Can you make decisions? Can you be a leader? And so on. So we have, again, 3 or 4 types of training. We can do physical training, yeah, like the way soldiers are trained. That is very physical. We are developing very specific skills. Physical training also happens with you. When we get to writing a lesson plan, I will want each person to write a lesson plan while I'm seeing. In fact, that topic will be a physical one. We shall have to assemble in auditorium B, even if we shall sit in the basketball field, we shall do it, because that one will have to be physical. I must see you write your own lesson plan. because that's what you'll be doing. That one, we shall not do it online. So that is physical. You want to acquire skills as the trainer is seeing you and confirming that actually you have acquired these skills, you can perform something. Then we have job training. This is additional training other than initial qualifications. We are training you now. But when you become teachers, we shall also expect you to go for trainings. We shall expect you to go for workshops. We shall expect you to go for seminars. So you'll still continue training anyway. Like those teachers we trained with have had to go back and do another training, which is called retooling. We are now retooling them to CBE because they were trained in the old system, 844, which is fading. So you'll now be trained already while you are working. That's why it is called job training. Then on-job training, using actual tools and equipment at the workplace. When I come observing you during your practicum 1 or even practicum 2, I want to see you do what I've told you to do. And on-job training works also in places like where we have apprenticeship. You know, there are some children or some people who can learn without going to class, but just observing. That is apprenticeship. You just observe. There are students I've come across who can even assemble all the parts of an engine, but they have never gone to a classroom to learn that. They just observed somebody doing that every other time. So you can even train without having been taught. You can train simply by observing and you acquire skills. Yeah, you can acquire skills simply by doing observation. And then, of course, we have off-the-job training. Off-the-job training is normally very good, that we are in Bungoma, but we have decided we want to go to Kisumu to conduct some training there. So still going to train on an aspect of teaching, but now away from your workstation. Yeah, very far away. And we are always looking forward to that. Everybody will, because you also want to go to a different environment. So you can have physical training, job or on-job training, and then off-the-job training away from the working station. At that point, therefore, you should be in a position to create relationships between teaching or a teacher, learning or a learner, and of course, training. Can you pick out something from teaching and relate it to learning and also relate it to training? Yeah, for example, you say teaching can speed up learning and even make it more relevant so that you're now well trained. So if you have to learn, you need somebody to help you in that learning, and so you need a teacher. So that is how teaching is now related to learning. And after learning, you'll have been trained. So for example, you need to learn about qualities of a good teacher. There are those you know, but I had to come in to teach you other qualities. And in doing that, you have now been trained to be a teacher with the best characteristics, or with the characteristics we expect a teacher to have. Teaching and learning is actually an ongoing interaction. So when we teach, we learn. When we learn, we teach. We cannot say, so today we are doing teaching only. Now, how can you do teaching only where there is no learning? It cannot. You can say we can learn, yes, by trial and error, by observation or experience, or by your own intelligence, or even from mistakes, by the way. We learn from mistakes. Nobody needs to teach you that this was a mistake. So teaching is one of the ways that can be adopted to learn. How do we normally say we learn from mistakes? Was there a teacher to teach you so that you now learn from your mistake? You will learn on your own. Do trial and error, you fail. You will have learned. When I do this, it will not work. When I do this other one, it will work. You are learning. But it is through trial and error. You didn't need a teacher. But sometimes you need a teacher so that you minimize the errors A teacher will have maybe more experience in doing something. You learn by observation. Yeah, that is apprenticeship. You don't need to be taught to learn, but you can learn something through observation. So think about how teaching can relate to learning and discuss it with your friend. When you do this, is it teaching? And when you move to this, will it be learning? And what about this other one? Will it be, sorry, um, learning or training or something like that? So that's how then we can go about with discussing the relationship. That's an activity for you. Discuss it with your friend. I'm going to share this after the class so that we can also use it for our guidelines. I'll share whatever presentation I'm making today. Training, teaching, learning. Which one requires more time? You can train for as long as you teach for a certain period of learning. Yeah. Training can go on. Personally, I'm also still doing training. I'm also undergoing training. But you see, I can teach. I'm teaching year 2 for semester 1, 2024-2025. And I'm teaching for a shorter time because my time is specified. I'm only teaching you for 1 semester. But training will keep on. It will go on and go on. Yeah. Learning will still go on even after this semester, even after this class. Yeah. So for you to be a good teacher, for you to be a good learner, of course, you require ongoing professional growth and development, and so on. Now, which one comes first? Is it teaching or is it learning? You can discuss that with your friend. We listen to a teacher to learn, and we learn to train, or we learn to train to teach. I don't know. We train to learn to teach, or we teach to learn to train, whichever. You can play along with those words and see which one will now make sense for you. So that's about teaching, learning, and training. And then we look at instruction. Instruction. Now, when we talk about the teaching and learning process, that is what we are referred to as instruction. So there's a teacher who is teaching. There's a learner who is listening or learning. That process is the one we are now calling instruction. So it can be by a facilitator, it can be by yourself, it can be using a robot, and so on. Yeah. We have to teach and learn and train maybe in an environment. And this environment, I've already said, can be formal or informal. I've given you the example. What we are doing now, we are in a formal environment. When you go for field school, that will be an informal learning environment. You need to be disciplined as a teacher and a learner for you to have your instruction being carried out successfully. And then also, when you are in class teaching, we have, for a teacher, you need to understand classroom management skills. And even soft skills, you need to have them, like being patient, being calm, being able to control your emotions, and how to motivate learners and even sustain their attention. Instruction doesn't have so much, but just know that instruction is the process of teaching and learning. So then that's about teaching, learning, and training. And maybe on that topic, I have reflection questions for you. At the end of this now, are you able to define the terms teaching, the terms learning, the term training, and in your own words? In your own words. Now, not referring to any notes. What have you understood from today's lesson? If I told you to list 5 key characteristics of an effective classroom teacher, Will you list for me the key ones? And remember, there are key characteristics we mentioned, like content, like being an effective communicator, like being, and so on. And then can you describe the 21st century teacher or the teacher of the 21st century classroom? What skills is he or she supposed to have? And I remember we looked at about 4 of them or so. Then can you relate teaching to learning and to training? Can you relate them? But then these questions are very good. They can form an end of semester examination from the way I'm seeing. I just make them 20 marks each. And then can you describe the domains in which learning takes place? Which are the domains? We've talked about cognitive, we talked about affective, we've talked about psychomotor, and we talked about the characteristics and so on. Yeah. So that one, if you can comfortably answer those questions, if you can comfortably just answer those questions, then know you have now started learning and training to be a teacher of the 21st century classroom. Before I move too far away from that, allow me in the next 30 minutes to talk about systems approach. Allow me in the next 30 minutes to talk about systems approach. And systems approach doesn't have so much. I'm just checking through to see. Okay. Systems approach. I think I love content on the LMS about the same. The font there could be a bit too small, but just allow me to explain a few things. Now, when you talk about a system, briefly, we are referring to an entity that has relationships within it and in it. An entity or a whole that has smaller parts within it. But in these smaller parts, there are relationships between them. But part A has to relate to part B for part C to work very well. Just like we are saying, teaching, learning, and training are like one thing. Each one relates to the other one. Each one can be on its own, yes. I can talk about teaching separately, learning separately, training separately, but then discover teaching is related to learning, learning is related to training, and so on. So an approach is a way of looking at things. So in teaching and learning, we look at concepts, we look at procedures, we look at our activities and everything that goes on around teaching, not as very separate entities, but as entities that have relationships within them. That in the teaching profession, we have things that relate to each other and we have things that depend on each other. So the components of a system we talk about are that in a system, we need an input. And where we have an input, we expect a process. And after the process, we expect an output. Yeah? Input, process, output. I want to give you an example. When we have sugarcane, we get it from the farm and we take it to the factory. Sugar is our input. We take it to the, sugarcane is our input. We take it to the factory. It is processed through machines. After being processed, we get the output. And our output here is sugar. So you had sugarcane, it has been processed, you get sugar. Okay. We are looking at the school or you as teacher trainers. So we have Form 4 graduates, I would say that, or first year graduates, now that you are through with the first year. We now want to start processing you to be teachers. And I told you it's going to take 2.5 years because it is through year 2, through year 3, and after your practical, plus the other things, of course. So we are now processing you. Yeah, we received you as very fresh graduates from Form 4. We are now processing you. At the end of it, when you graduate, we shall now say, this is a teacher of English. This is a teacher of mathematics. So an input is like raw material, which you have to process so that you get a product. And that's how we are referring to it like that. So looking at the classroom, looking at the school, looking at the teaching and learning environment, we must somewhere always have some input into something. We go through a process, we get an output. Even when you are giving an exam, what is the input? You have to teach first. Teach how to do this, teach how to do that, teach procedures, even in the laboratory. Teach them that we need this, we need this. And which experiment are we going to carry out? We are going to do titration. So what is our output of our titration? We do this and that. And calculate, I don't know, molar, molarity, and so on. So think about the education system as a system that will have input processes, processing unit itself, and then an output or a finished product. Look at the input as raw material, look at the process, and then output. Even when you are training students for whatever co-curricular activities, you have the students, they don't have the skills. You want to train them for maybe handball, so you do your training, and when they go for competitions, they win. That is their output. They have won their match or something. And then characteristics of a system. A system must have a goal, it must have elements, there must be harmony, there must be feedback. The details of these notes will be on the LMS. A goal. What are you aiming to achieve at the end of it? Why are you planting sugarcane in the first place? You know it will go to the factory, it will be processed, and you'll have sugar to put in your tea. That's why we grow sugarcane. Otherwise, why would we be growing sugarcane if we don't need tea? I mean, tea that has sugar. So you're taking your child to school to train to be a teacher. You want them to train to be a teacher and a very good teacher for that matter. That is your goal. That is your purpose. That's your aim. So in a systems approach, we must have a reason for doing something. When it comes to teaching a lesson, you must have a learning outcome. So that is the goal of your teaching. What is your learning outcome? And then we have elements who are going to be involved for you to achieve your goal. If you are processing something in a factory, we need machines, we need human resource, or we need the workers, we need equipment, we need all those things. Even in a school, now that you've come to train as a teacher, there are things you must just get in Kibabii. Lecture rooms must be there. Office for consultation, offices, they must be there. Equipment for learning, like we go to the media lab, you'll find so many of the equipment we are going to use for our learning, our media practicals, and so on. So you must have them because they will now help you to achieve your goal. So these are facilities, equipment, human resource, and so on. Then harmony. We are not going to stay in a school, and because we are teachers, then we don't talk to cleaners. And because these are students, they should not talk to teachers. You know, it doesn't work like that. The elements in a system must operate in harmony. Each of the elements knows their roles, yes, but we must learn to relate to each other. Teachers must learn to relate to students in a teaching, learning environment, kind of. Workers must know how to relate to the school administration. The school administration must know how to relate to workers, to teachers, to learners, and so on. The school itself must know how to relate to the community. The community must relate to the school. So there must be a lot of harmony, collaboration for there to be peace. Otherwise, if a community is hostile to a school, this school may not prosper because the community is hostile. You cannot get out of the school to do something. And then, of course, for a system, you need feedback. When you are in a school teaching and students are not happy about something, they should tell you. When you are processing sugar and this sugar is of low quality, who will say it is of low quality? That low quality is the feedback we are looking for so that we improve. When we train you as graduates and you go to school and you're not delivering, who will tell us this? The head teachers in those schools. They'll give us the feedback. Your students are not good. Just like we are receiving a lot of feedback from you through the confidential reports. We are receiving a lot of feedback. Yeah. Why? Because we had a purpose to train you to go for your school experience. Then you have gone to school, you have interacted with the elements in the school, and majority of us have been in harmony, and so we are getting feedback. So you see, it is a system. We are training you from the institutions, we take you to schools, we get that feedback back from the schools, so we are collaborating with the schools, and so on. A system has basic properties or elements, and those are explained very well in the write-up on the LMS. A system imports matter and energy from the environment. What does that mean? I'm giving examples to explain that. You have come to the university to study. Where did we get you from? We got you from the environment or from the community. So we are importing learners from the community to the institution. We have imported you and we have to energize you. And then at the end of it all, just like we are talking about input, process, output, we shall send you back to the community. So we import from the community raw materials, we export back to the community. We get you, we process you, we send you back. So we have to relate to the environment. Then we have something called entropy. Entropy is having that energy to move back when you look like you are getting towards the end of something, like a semester. We know a semester is 14 weeks. Right now, we are very energetic. By the way, it gets to week 12, week 13, we shall be very tired. Week 14, we are dreaming of when the semester will end. We start exams, we go away. We feel like we have now breathed. The semester at least is over. So there's that tendency of things working in a system. We start off with a lot of energy. Towards the end, we feel like our energy is fading out. But once we get a break, we again come back and start afresh. Yeah. So it's like things operating in a cyclic manner. Yeah. You operate in a cyclic manner. Even in an industry, when you get this sugar cane, you process, it gets out as sugar. Some more sugar cane is still coming in. So it's cyclic, because if you don't have that, the factory will stop. If we don't have students to train now in this institution every other year, we must keep on getting students in. We must keep on getting students in. Every other year, students are going out. So that is how we do it, and we need to take a break. That's why we go for long holiday. We need that break because we are tired, so that we now re-energize and come back. A system exists in time and space. Time, you are here for 4 years. So that is how you will exist in this system for the 4 years. When the 4 years are over, we expect you to be out. You have space. You cannot go to Kibabii High School to learn from there. That is not your space. You cannot be a teacher in charge of Form 2 East and you carry your students to Form 2 West. That is not your class. That is not their space. So in a system, things exist in their own time and also they have their own space. You don't interfere with other people's spaces in a system. Then in a system, we have boundaries. Which boundaries? We have had some school rules telling students teachers' quarters are out of bounds. That's a boundary. You're a student, don't be found in the teacher's quarters unless with express permission from the principal. See how things work. So those boundaries are very necessary. There's a way in which we expect you to interact with that teacher. And if you go beyond those boundaries, we shall implicate you in CK. I hope we remember CK. We talked about it last week. So boundaries are there and must be respected. Even a school has a fence. Why must it have a fence? That fence is the boundary between the school and the community. So that things don't just come in and they go out anytime. We must have some control. Then, of course, we have what we call subsystems and suprasystems. In a school, we have people we respect most. That is the principal, the deputy, the senior teacher. You see, it's a super on another level. If it is prefect's body, we expect a lot of respect for the head president, school president, school monitors, and so on. If it is for us here in our institution, we know we have SOCU leadership. We respect them so much. So those are our topmost organs of operation, suprasystems. And then we have smaller systems within that, like class reps. Class reps are now small systems when you compare them to maybe the dean of students, for example. So there must always be a structure where we have some people on the top and then others as you come down in the middle, others towards the end of the operational or management chain and so on. And each one has to respect everyone. Just like I said, don't go to school and despise the groundsman. This groundsman could be the one who can save you out of danger. So respect everybody for what they are and what they do in a system because we depend on them. Don't despise a cleaner because if they have not cleaned the classroom, you'll not be comfortable sitting there. So even education operates as a system, and we are saying education has so many elements like the ministry at the top. Everything in education in Kenya is controlled by the Ministry of Education. Then we have down to the county levels, we have county education officers or ministers and so on, or officers, sorry. Then we have quality assurance, then we have KICD, we have Kenya National Examination Council, we have Teacher Service Commission, we have individual schools. All these things relate. All these are elements. Ministry of Education has its role, but we rely on it. KICD has its role, but it cannot just prepare a curriculum and not get into contact with the NEC. So we prepare the curriculum. It is NEC that will examine that curriculum, and it is TSC that will provide teachers to go and implement the curriculum. And then a quality assurance will come to find out or to monitor if curriculum is being implemented well. Then they give feedback, maybe to the Ministry of Education, about individual schools and their performance. You see, So it is a whole system, right from the Ministry of Education up to an individual school. Board of Management in the school, it represents the Ministry of Education. The Board of Management in a school can suspend a student and just inform Ministry of Education, sorry, that we have expelled this student for this reason. Because it is a system. You don't expect the minister or the CS to come to the school. But once the board says, this is what we have decided, it is as well as the CS having said that. The school, we have a BOM, we have the PA, we have the principal, we have the teachers, we have support staff, we have students, we have the community. All those are a system. Even a lesson is a system. In what way? It must have a learning outcome. It must have a lesson topic, or we talk about strand and substrands in a lesson. We talk about instructional strategies or methods we are going to use or approaches. We talk about evaluation, yeah. How are we going to assess our students so that we ensure they have acquired the required competencies? How do we interact with pupils and learners? And so many others in the qualities I've talked about, teacher and so on. A lesson has so many things. You need media, you need instructional materials, you need a classroom, you need even chairs, tables, you need books to write, you need to go and carry out experiments, you need all those equipment, facilities, structures. So the lesson will not just be a lesson. Before you go to class to teach, you will discover you have interacted with so many other things. You have to interact with the principal through the class teacher to ensure that you have enough books, to ensure that you have marker pens, to ensure that you have the right environment for teaching, to ensure that there are no other activities interfering with you in that class. You have to get the curriculum design from KICD to help you as a teacher to prepare your lesson. So you see, the whole education system, right from the Ministry of Education to the individual student in the classroom, there's a lot in between. And each one person knows in the whole system of education, this is so and so, and this is their role. But if they are not there, we shall not work. We cannot have a school without a principal. We must have somebody in charge. We cannot have students in the class without teachers in the school, because whom are they going to teach? So try to think about the school environment, or just the school as one system or as one entity. Who relates to who and in what way? And supposing this other person is not there, then are we going to have a system? No. So what does that mean? That all elements of a system have to be there, and each element must be performing its role as expected, so that the system now functions the way it is expected to function, and so that whatever input we are giving and doing the right processes, then we get the expected output. There was something on, didn't want this. I think I have that image on I have that image on the LMS. The first image you see on LMS about topic 2, it's on some flow chart like this called the Early and Gelack model. It's Early and Gelack model of developing a system. Early and Gelack model of developing a system, or I mean a lesson. All those elements in the Early and Gelack model, which I'm going to refer you to, go to the learning management system, and I hope you have enrolled. Enrollment key was CUP 2110 SEP 2025. When you enroll, go to topic 2. There's an image there, like a flow chart, Eli and Gelak model. Please go to that, look at it. It is giving you a lesson plan and the elements of a lesson plan and how those elements interact. How those elements interact for you to prepare a lesson plan. So so much for today. Make reference to the LMS because I'm going to update a few things in there, especially for topic 1 and 2. Remember I said cut 1 will be week 3. So this is our week 2. Next week is our week 3 on Thursday, and hopefully the government will do something so that we don't get into what we are hearing in the air. Next week on Thursday, between 5 to 6, the cut will be 30 minutes. So whatever time you log in, make sure you answer those 10 questions in the given time. Please make sure you do this cut. And immediately after the cut, if you know you will not have been in a position to submit your work or to complete your work, or you had technical issues, get to my inbox immediately and let me know so that I take note. So next week on Thursday, between 5 and 6, you'll have your cut 1 out of 10 marks. I'll still give you a reminder within the week, and I'm not sure about next week lesson, but should it be there, then it will be online. If we shall not manage an online, I will have a recorded lesson already, and then we post it on the LMS for you to interact with during that time. So thank you so much. Allow me to stop sharing. Unless we have issues to consult about. We have issues to respond to. I can see a few, but on the charts, majority of them, I think I've talked about them. So let's meet next week. MacD, we can end there. McDonald, are you there? McDonald? Odell?
Yeah, we can end from there. No, continue maybe next week.
Yeah, maybe for next week's class, I'll have a pre-recorded